I'm Carol Angela Davis. I thank you so much for joining me. This is your reality news check as we close the year, your last broadcast for the year. Again, I come to you as I always do via Skype, and you can always follow me on Twitter at Carol Angela D. All right, let's begin with your headlines. A judge takes the Securities and Exchange Commission to task for dirty dealings. Also, an update in the race for the presidency 2012. We're talking Iowa. Also, a woman is now running Jamaica again. Then Somalia faces a loss of U.S. family members being able to send that money home, and that's real trouble for them. Plus, Kenya and the faulty HIV kits. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Okay. Also, today, the housing sector in the U.S., it looks good. The banks finally are getting what's due them. We'll tell you about that. And 4 arrests in the robbery of a world poker champion. And wait till you hear how much money he won. Okay. All right, so let's stay tuned. Let's begin, of course, with the banking story where the SEC, a federal judge is accusing the Securities and Exchange Commission of misleading his court. Now, the judge and the SEC at battle, folks. They're battling over how the U.S. government should police financial fraud, and we know the judge needs to win this battle. One of the issues is whether the Securities and Exchange Commission is negotiating weak settlements with Wall Street firms. The judge here is U.S. District Court Judge Jed S. Rakoff. Apparently, the judge wants the SEC to stop negotiating those settlements where firms that are accused of securities fraud neither admit nor deny any wrongdoing. Okay, here's a case in point, okay? A Citigroup mortgage deal in which investors allegedly lost more than $700 million, okay? So the judge rejected a settlement under which Citigroup would only pay $285 million and, of course, neither admit nor deny any wrongdoing. The judge saying the settlement was neither fair nor reasonable nor adequate nor in the public interest, and we thank the judge for that, okay? In the race, I don't understand how these financial institutions can pay a fine of, or even agree to pay a fine of $285 million and don't admit any wrongdoing. What are you paying for? If you make them admit wrongdoing, make them admit it. They're going to pay a fine. Admit it. Just put the cards on the table. Put the blame where it lies. Okay, let's move on. In the race for the presidency 2012, Iowa, get ready. So far, Rick Perry has already, we're getting ready for the caucuses in Iowa, but now we're still in Iowa and Virginia. Between those two together, it gets so ugly every day, folks. Okay. As you know, Rick Perry, now today, he filed a federal court to challenge the fact that he was not allowed on the Virginia ballot. He's charging Virginia's ballot access rules, of course, whining about not getting on the ballot for the state's Republican presidential primary vote. Perry saying, we believe, and I'm going to quote this guy, he's got to be kidding, we believe that the Virginia provisions unconstitutionally restrict the rights of candidates and voters by severely restricting access to the ballot. Rick, darling, honey, listen to me. If that's the case, then please tell us, Rick, why are the Republicans all over the nation constantly enacting voting laws that are determined to take us back to Jim Crow? If you're so concerned about restricting access, darling, I keep telling you, if you create a system, one day you are going to have to live under it. So you need to think about fairness all across the board, okay? Meanwhile, we should tell you that former Senator Rick Santorum, a Republican from Pennsylvania, well, he says Virginia's laws are rigged in favor of the richest presidential candidate. Hey, Rick, you rigged them. You rigged the laws all over this country in favor of the rich. Now, once again, you got to live by them, Rick. Tough cookies. Sit down and stop whining. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, a Republican from Georgia, he called the state's, this is Virginia still, system failed. Okay, now as for Michelle Bachmann, well, we'll take you to Iowa on Michelle. Poor Michelle, she's got her own troubles, okay? Everyone's quitting her campaign. Another key member of her presidential campaign is now no longer working for her. We're talking Wes Enos, folks. He is now her former political director, and you'll remember that earlier this week, former state chairman Kent Sorensen said he switched over to Ron Paul's campaign. And folks, how did he do it? He simply showed up on stage and said he was supporting Ron Paul, and that's how she found out about it. Talk about no respect. Michelle, walk away, okay? Walk away. In international news, Jamaica's opposition People's National Party candidate has won the election there. Her name is Portia Simpson Miller. She's 66 years old. She now has her second chance to run the island. She first became the country's first female prime minister in March of 2006, but she was thrown out of office a year later in a very narrow election defeat. We should tell you that Jamaica has 2.8 million people there in that country. The debt, terrible, roughly 18.6 billion or 130% of gross domestic product. That's 10 percentage points higher than Italy's. In Somalia, there is fear of starvation there. Now the Sunrise Community Bank is halting money transfers. The move puts the bank in compliance with U.S. laws on financing terror groups. Sunrise is the largest bank that lets Somalis send money home to famine-ravaged Somalia. U.S.-based Somalis are largely from Minnesota, home to 60 to 80,000 ethnic Somalis. In total, money that is sent home to Somalia, you should know, represents about 1/3 of the country's income, if you can imagine that. Somalia has been worst affected by East Africa's worst drought in 60 years. So we'll see what happens there. From Kenya, can you say faulty HIV kits? Yeah. HIV testing kits? Yeah. Okay. A recall in Kenya after the World Health Organization raised an alert about the kit after finding that half the test results could be wrong. Don't do us any favors. It's the Standard Diagnostic Bioline, or SDB kit, manufactured by a South Korean company, according to the World Health Organization. Quote, about 50% of positives may have been reported as negative and 50% of negatives as positives, unquote. Yikes. Okay. More than 1 million Kenyans are HIV positive. Of course, that number could go up thanks to those ridiculous kits. In business news here in the United States, good news for the housing sector, specifically previously owned homes, folks. The index of pending home sales increased 7.3% to the highest level since April of 2010. That is the word from the National Association of Realtors. All 4 regions of this country showed an increase in contract signings from a month earlier, led by the West at 14.9%. That's the increase in the West. Also, we have a surge in the Northeast of 8.1%. We should also tell you the South is up 4.3% and the Midwest up 3.3%, folks. Not bad. In banking, Bank of America Corp, that company's shares selling below $5 for the first time since March of 29. Oh, how the chickens come home to roost, folks. Oh, how they roost. Bank of America is on track to be this year's worst performer in the Dow. Bank of America is the second biggest U.S. lenders. The bank probably will also end 2011 last in the Standard & Poor's 500 Financials Index and the KBW Bank Index, okay? The news is also not good for other financial institutions and for an insurer. Let's take a look at Citigroup, the 3rd biggest U.S. bank by assets, dropping 43%. That's what you get for dogging everybody. J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, the largest lender, sliding 21%. Going to insurance, American International Group fell 52%. AIG is the insurer owned mostly by the U.S. like we want that junk, okay? After they have dogged everybody down, we got to prop them up. After its near collapse in 2008, Goldman Sachs Group is also down, lost 46%, and they deserve it. I have no sympathy for these folks because guess what? The people who run the company are, in many cases, are billionaires, and everybody else is suffering, and they don't care. So don't expect us to cry for these companies. You know, what will happen here in the U.S., we hope if competition could step in and we could get things to happen the way they should normally happen, these kind of people will be put out of business and somebody else can step into their shoes who knows how to treat consumers. So let's see what happens. And finally today, folks, in sports, 4 people under arrest in the beating and home invasion of Jonathan Duhamel. Now, who is he? Well, he's the World Series of Poker No Limit Texas Hold'em champion, folks. Do you know he beat over 7,300 contestants and won $8.9 million? Yes, he did. Also, he won a diamond-encrusted bracelet. Now, of course, that's what they stole. Did they think that, like, when they won't go to fence this, that nobody's going to know what this? These people don't have brains, okay? They also stole the bracelet, of course, a Rolex watch, and an undisclosed amount of cash. Well, now 3 men and a woman are in police custody. We should tell you that Duhamel was attacked by 2 masked men at his home in Boucherville, Quebec. That happened about a week ago. Those are your stories. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, folks. I'll see you in the new year with your next story. And listen, you know, just have a wonderful and safe holiday weekend. I'm Carol Angela Davis. Follow me on Twitter at CarolAngelaD. Send me an email, CarolAngelaDavis@gmail.com. And I'll see you next week. Have yourself a wonderful holiday weekend.